Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, for another exciting review, and today we're finally taking a look at Accurascale's very first steam loco, the Manor. Now, before we jump into this video, I do just want to say that Accurascale sent me this loco as a review sample, so I haven't had to pay for this. I'm still going to give you a completely honest review. As always, Accurascale don't have any creative control over this video, but I just want to make that clear from the outset. That said, hopefully the close-up shots and the running performance you'll see later on will give you enough information so that you can make your own mind up, and you're welcome to take what I say in this video with as many grains of salt as you would like. So, with that said, let's start off with some specs. The Accurascale Manor was announced back in February 2021, and the various versions have been released over the course of the last few months. You can see here I've got Dinmore Manor in the lined black livery with the early British Railways crest too. This model has an 18-pin decoder socket, and we also get a power pack, which is basically a stay alive fitted as standard, although I imagine that'll only function on DCC. Additionally, we also have a firebox LED fitted to this loco too, and that'll work on both analog and digital. Finally, Accurascale have been kind enough to provide a sound-fitted version for this video. So of course this comes with a pre-fitted sound decoder and two speakers pre-fitted, one in the tender and one inside the boiler. Obviously that does affect the price somewhat, so the sound-fitted version comes in at £259.99, which actually isn't bad at all considering there are non-sound-fitted locos out there at that sort of price at the moment. But of course, if you do just want a standard loco, that'll only cost £179.99, which again is fairly reasonable for a loco of this size. As far as the construction of the model goes, I believe the boiler and footplate are both made of metal, very similar to the Hornby 2MT I looked at a couple of weeks ago. This makes the Manor really quite a hefty model, which is nice, and like I've said in the past, I do like having metal construction on models as it just adds to the feeling of quality. The BR Black livery is done really nicely, and one thing I do want to point out is the difference in finish between the boiler cladding and the smoke box. You can really see the difference with the matte finish there. It looks so realistic, and I don't think I've ever seen this on a 00 gauge model before. The red lining around the boiler bands is great too, nice and sharp just as you would expect, and there's more of this feature on the splashers as well, and you can also see the nameplate there with Dinmore Manor printed proudly on the side. In addition to that, we also get etched metal versions of these to fit yourself if you want to. Those come included with the loco, along with number plates for the side of the cab as well. Speaking of the cab, the number plate is printed on here already, and we have that nice white and red lining framing the side of the cab really well too. And also check out the gold rim around the window there. The lining is repeated on the side of the tender as well, and then you can see in the middle we have the early BR crest, again printed really nicely. Looking below the footplate at the wheels, you can see the rims of these have been blackened, which is great and definitely stops this feeling like a toy train. And then as we move towards the front, we have more of the red lining on the cylinder covers. Something that's also worth mentioning as well is that the cylinders have cutouts in them to allow the front pony truck to swing side to side as the loco goes round corners. Of course, this isn't a prototypical feature, so if your layout has very large, smooth curves, or if you're just planning to display this model rather than run it, Accurascale have very kindly provided alternate cylinder pieces in the detail bag which can be fitted. As we move to the front of the loco then, we can see we have a nice separately fitted chimney with a copper band around the top there too. We've also got a nice wire handrail that runs down from the cab across the front of the loco here. On the face of the smoke box, we then have the lamp bracket, number plate, and also the door dart, which all look to be separately fitted pieces. Then below this, we also have the shed code printed on, but there is a little bit of relief to the moulding there, which is a nice touch. I'm not sure if that's picking up on camera, but it's definitely there. Moving down, you can see that the area ahead of the smoke box has loads of rivet detailing, as does the whole footplate, in fact. That said, I'm certainly not going to bother to count them to see if they're all in the correct position, but I imagine somebody already has. There's more separately fitted lamp irons along the front too, along with the pipe on the buffer beam. There's also additional detail that can be fitted here, for example these tiny screw couplings which really look as if they might be functional. Knowing Accurascale, there's a good chance that they actually might work. And of course, as you would expect, we have sprung metal buffers on this loco too, and there's quite a nice amount of resistance there. Another thing to point out as well is that the front of the pony truck is fully detailed, which is absolutely awesome. Of course, if you want to run tender first, this can be removed to fit in an included NEM pocket and coupling, so it really is the best of both worlds. Moving back along the body then, we've got a nice top feed and safety valve cover there, which has been picked out in a brass colour, and like the chimney, this appears to be a separately fitted part too. Underneath the boiler, you might just be able to see a little bit of the motion there too, which has been picked out in red. And then further back, we also have the whistle. Again, these are separately fitted plastic parts, which also look really good. Let's take a look at the cab now, and you can see the interior is absolutely superb, with tons of detail everywhere. There's some very fine pipework that's been picked out in there, along with the gauges on the dials and the sight glasses too. Also, you should be able to see the firebox LED in there too, and don't worry, we're going to see that in action in just a little bit. Finally, taking a look at the tender, you can see the Loco doesn't come with the coal load fitted straight out of the box, but this gives us an opportunity to appreciate the fact that Accurascale have bothered to model the inside of the bunker. Don't worry though, the coal load is included in the detail pack, and this is easily fitted. You can just slot this into place. Another thing I've noticed as well is that the water filler cap on the back here actually opens, which is a fun little feature. I suppose if you wanted to, you could actually pose the Loco by a water tower with the hose going down inside for a very realistic scene. On the back of the tender, there's no lining here, as per the prototype presumably. There's just a very small builder's plate there which you can just about see. There's also the other vacuum pipe fitted as standard too, along with more lamp brackets and of course loads more rivet detail on the buffer beam. I've already mentioned quite a few of the additional detail parts that can be fitted to the model, but I just thought I'd show you a quick overview shot of the bag. Obviously, you can fit as much or as little to this as you want, depending on how the Loco runs on your layout. And the nice thing about these as well is that it's a resealable bag, so you don't have to worry about losing any little bits once you've opened it up. So, with the Loco on the rolling road, let's test out the running capabilities of the Accurascale Manor. The slow speed performance is good, not the best crawler we've seen, but this is still a really nice consistent slow speed. And let's face it, you're unlikely to be doing a lot of shunting with a large Loco like this anyway. At the higher speeds, the Manor really starts to shine though. It almost feels like it's gliding on the rolling road here. There is a little bit of motor noise as we increase the speed, but it's certainly not a bad noise. It's just the sound of the motor working, but it's not affecting the running quality as far as I can tell, and I imagine that'll be hard to hear once we get the sound effects on later anyway. So let's go again, this time in reverse. And obviously with this being a sound fitted Loco, this is running on DCC at speed step 1. I believe it's an ESU lock sound decoder fitted into these. Personally, I tend to use Zimo decoders or Zemo decoders most of the time, but ESU are certainly another high quality brand, and you can see here the Loco control is really nice, especially as the speed ramps up and down realistically. So the Accurascale Manor has the looks, and it appears to be a very capable runner too. The next thing of course is to test the sound decoder, so I'll get the Loco over to the layout and we'll run through all the various functions. So here we are at Pitley, and you can see Dinmore Manor is sitting down by the coal dock looking rather resplendent. Firstly, I'll switch the sound decoder on and we can take a listen to the general sound. Well, it definitely seems to work, which is a good sign. This is also a perfect opportunity to test out the stay alive too, so I'll just lift the loco from the track and we'll see how long it takes for the sound to cut out. So yeah, the stay alive is definitely working as well, giving us a few extra seconds of juice there, which is going to be more than enough, considering the Manor already has quite a long wheelbase with plenty of pickups on it. So now I'll just quickly run through all the sounds on the decoder, and then we'll get Dinmore Manor running round the layout. So there we are, Dinmore Manor is running around the layout, and doesn't it both look and sound superb? I will say I did have some trouble initially as the front pony truck kept derailing. Basically, unless the track is absolutely dead level, the pony sort of floats above the rails. Obviously, that's partially down to my track laying skills, but I will say that I haven't had this issue with any of my other locos. For example, here is the Hush Hush, which is quite a picky loco in my opinion, going over the same section of track without derailing. Now, I suspect the reason for this is because the wheel flanges on the Manor's pony truck are much smaller and finer than on other locos. It's much more prototypical, but it definitely means that the margin for error in your track work is a lot smaller too, so that may be something to consider if you're thinking about picking one of these up for yourself. Luckily for me, I was able to amend the track work fairly easily, and now you can see it's running round without issue at all. The other thing to mention is the sound. It's not earth-shaking like the Deltic or the Class 37, but then there's a lot less space for large speakers in this type of loco. Personally, I think it's absolutely fine. Certainly for home use, you may want to upgrade to a different speaker if you're running it at loud exhibitions, but for the most part, I think this is perfectly acceptable. And of course, please do bear in mind that when you're listening to it now, you're hearing it recorded through a microphone in an echoey room, then processed through editing software and compressed by YouTube. So like I always say, it's probably worth hearing one of these in person if you can. Generally though, the Manor is a fantastic loco from Accurascale, and in comparison to other manufacturers, the price is really good. For the standard DCC ready version, you're getting a lot of loco for £180, especially considering the RRP for the Hornby 2MT I took a look at a few weeks ago was £217. That's quite a difference, and in my opinion, the Accurascale has got a lot more going for it. And of course, there's a huge variety of different Manors available in the range to cover various different periods and liveries. It's great to see Accurascale putting in as much effort for their first steam loco as they did with their diesels, and once again it's turned out a great model that I can see a lot of people being very happy with. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos in the future. That's it for today though guys, so thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!